Hello and welcome again today. Welcome my friends, my foes, my Wi-Fi warriors, my offline champions, and my fierce battlers out there. I am here today after the recent Smash update, after I noticed that there's a real thing in the community where many people are asking, how do I improve at Super Smash Bros. Ultimate? And then I asked this looking for just the answer of work at it. They're asking this legitimately trying to understand how they can get better at the game. And I'm here today to give some advice on how to do that. And not just the generic advice of, oh, work at it. I mean tools that you can use that will help you in the game. I've broken them down into categories. That way you can kind of go to each section depending on where you're at in your own headspace, as you can see as number 3. So, without much further ado, let's nair into it. So first and foremost, you need to understand your real goal. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind. Your real goal needs to be tenable. That means you can't be comparative to other people. Because if you're comparative to other people, you're going to run into disappointment. What will happen is, as you continually compare yourself to other people, that is, by definition, a moving goalpost. People get better or worse over time, and comparing yourself to them will never be an accurate representation of how good you actually are. Secondly, your goal needs to be on a time constraint. You don't have forever. If you think that you have forever, you are wrong in the most strict definition. You need to have a goal in mind not only that is tenable, but one that has a time limit of which you wish to reach it. That way you know whether or not you failed or succeeded. If you set a goal and you do not have a time frame, then you do not have any metric for success or failure. You could continue going, and you could continue not failing or not succeeding forever. It is important that you have yourself a time constraint, so that way you can know whether you're progressing towards your goal or if the progress that you're making is not accurate towards that goal. Third, you need to be comparative to yourself. This is the most important part of a tenable goal. It's easy to say, oh, I want to be better than this person or better than that person, but once again, you're comparing yourself to a moving goal post. If you compare yourself to yourself, you can actually see the changes that are being made in your play. You can tell yourself, before, I wasn't doing this, I wasn't getting the idea in this sort of time in my life, I wasn't doing the things I needed to do at this time, and now I am. It gives you a real feeling of success, of accomplishing your goal, and generally getting to where you want to be, even if it's not in terms of who you beat. And that's important. And third, make sure your goal is reachable. There are some things that you will set your goal up to be that is truly unreachable. And this is why you need to have a time constraint. Because if you set yourself up for a goal that you couldn't possibly reach, you will work at it forever, and you will never have that sense of, oh, I've failed, and oh, I've succeeded. So make sure that your goal is reachable. And that is one of the harder aspects of setting a goal. That's why the first 3 are there. They make sure that your goal is, in fact, doable or failable. Moving on from that, we've got the real methods. Now, after you've set a goal, a time, and you've got a comparative set of tenable ideas that you can compare yourself to, you need to act on it, unfortunately for many people. Many people will say, after doing step 1, yes, I would like to be able to be better on Ike. Okay, that's not a goal. It doesn't reach any of these goals that we've set. It's not comparative, there's no time constraint, there's no tenable action. In order to actually have goals for improvement, you need to set very specific goals down. For example, I would like to be better at using a specific move. I would like to be better at using a specific move and in a specific matchup. You need to specify which goals you have and try to narrow it down as much as possible. If you don't, you'll just say generic statements that don't have tenability, time constraints, or comparative measures. And lastly, and absolutely most importantly in every regard, is that you are okay with failing a lot. I will tell you from personal experience that the worst thing that can happen is that you are too afraid to fail. If you are not okay with failing, then you will never be able to work towards any goal because the fear of failing is too high. I don't care how many games you lose, how many games you win, how many games you feel like you didn't get better. The point is that you are okay with understanding that not every goal ends in success, and that failure is an accurate and very normal part of the experience of getting better. Next is we've got the headspace. This is where the other two methods really push you. Once you have a real goal and you're willing to act on it, you've specified the specific goal, you have a comparative measure to which to compare to, and you've got a time constraint, you need to tell yourself, oh, I've failed or succeeded. And this is important. You need to be able to tell yourself either way whether or not you failed or succeeded in your goal. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you failed or succeeded by anybody else's metric. The only metric of which you are comparing yourself to is the goal that you set yourself. If you succeeded in your goal that you set for yourself, you have succeeded, and you have made yourself better, if your goal was to do that. If you failed, you need to admit to yourself, I have failed what I wanted to do for one reason or another. This is very important. Next, after you've realized you failed or succeeded, set a harder or easier goal for the next time. Let's say, for example, your goal, I shall give a real tenable one, is to make sure that you understand in which cases you are able to true punish a move and what is the best move to do it with on every character within a week. Okay, so you select whatever character you want to play, and then you go into, say, training mode or real games, and when an unsafe move hits your shield, unsafe as defined by whatever your character has to punish it, perhaps it's the spacing, perhaps it's how negative it is on shield, you need to ask yourself, what is my best punish? Or maybe you need to ask yourself, can I even punish this? And you need to practice. You need to tenably practice. Let's say that Roy is jabbing your shield. Just tell yourself, I'm going to practice for the next 10 minutes on Captain Falcon, Roy jabbing my shield, compare the results of my possible punish options to each other, do it for only 10 minutes so I see if I actually have anything to do or if I can't actually do anything about it. I need to actually go do it, and I've already specified what exactly I'm practicing, and that if there is no way to punish it or I'm messing it up, I'm okay with failing, and after these 10 minutes, I've decided if I've failed or succeeded a lot or not. Now keyly, success and failure aren't exactly binary, because just because you didn't get your initial goal doesn't mean you didn't learn. And what do I mean by this? So, you've just spent all that time as Captain Falcon trying to punish Roy Jab. You try every single move available to you in every single spacing, in every single situation, and you realize, wow, I am completely unable to punish this move. There is no punishing it. Well, fortunately, even though you failed in realizing the optimal punish, because there isn't one, you've succeeded in learning that you don't have one, and that is a big deal, because then you know, actually, there's nothing I can do about that, so I need to look for other avenues of getting around this. So just because you fail does not mean you didn't learn. Just because you didn't succeed at your goal does not mean that you should learn the lesson that comes from that. And that is also very important. Number 4 is acting on it. Now, unfortunately, for many people, This is also one of the harder spaces to get into. Acting on the goal that you've set is very hard because you need to ask yourself, is it worth it? Do I really care whether or not I can get the optimal punish on this move? How consistent is it going to be? How often is it going to come up? And do I even really care? Because, as you'll find out very quickly, every goal has a cost. That's not to say that's necessarily bad. Some goals' positives obviously outweigh the goods. But you also have to consider, what other things could I be doing, if any, that would make me better? Every goal has a cost. The higher you set your goal, likely the higher the cost is. Whether it's time, investment, talking to people, facing adversity, taking advice, you have to act on it, and acting in any capacity means that you are making an active choice to sacrifice something else. So, when you're also acting on it, make sure you're happy. Make sure that you're happy that the trade you are making in terms of achieving your goal is actually what you want. Because usually, if you truly want to get better, you'll find out that it is. But sometimes, in the act of failing at doing these things, you'll realize, oh, actually, I don't even want to do this. It's not even worth it for me. This is completely on an individualized level. Only you can determine what is worth it for you. Only you can determine how much your time is worth and what you're willing to sacrifice in order to achieve your goal. Nobody else can tell you that. No matter how much you ask, you're only asking other people's opinions. So, make sure that when you're acting on these things, that it is making you happy as well, and you are okay with the things that you are letting go. Number 5, pushing your advantage. So by pushing your advantage, what could that mean? It means using every tool available. This is going to vary from person to person, but in the same vein as is it worth it, you need to be okay with using the tools that are available to you. This might be other people, this might be training servers, this might be your local, this might be spending $20 on an hour of coaching sessions if you think that's worthwhile. Anything that you can do to help further your goal that you are willing to part with, you should use. If you don't use it, then it's just sitting there, and a tool that just sits there is of no value. On top of pushing your advantage is listening to people. People aren't often coming in with the worst of intent, despite what many people think. Many people just wish to help other people in their endeavors. Some people are going to offer very critical and good advice. Some people are going to offer bad advice, which I will be putting in overcoming hurdles. But overall, just because you think that you can do it alone, doesn't mean that you shouldn't listen to other people. They may provide valuable insight that you did not have. They may provide valuable information you could never get. They may have labbed something that you didn't lab and don't have to lab now. They will provide you with many tools. Make sure to use at your dispense these other people's advice and guides. It will help you. Even if you think that you are above it, at least listen and make sure that you know it's not good. As well as pushing your advantage is not being empathetic when you're trying to win. And this is pretty big. And this is kind of the philosophy that the fighting game community has. When we come into the fighting game, when we come into this game, we have this unlisted expectation that the other player is trying their absolute best for whatever methods they think is most optimal to beat you. And that will maybe involve cheesing you, that may involve using their character's jank, that might be using things that you don't know how to punish, that might be spamming the same move that you don't know how to beat. When you are trying to win in Smash Brothers, if you see that your opponent does not know how to punish something that you are doing that normally is punishable, you need to abuse it. Don't feel the need to play honorably. Don't feel the need to play fairly. Nobody is trying to play fairly, and that is a fact. They are trying to win. If your goal is not to win, then you can disregard this. But if you are actively trying to get better and you are actively trying to win, use every single tool available. If your opponent can't punish it, abuse it. Abuse your opponent for not being able to do it. If your opponent has bad DI and moves that let you true combo into things that aren't normally true, hit them with it. Don't feel bad. They will do the same thing to you and laugh about it. But that's alright, because we come in knowing that we have that respect for each other, that we are both trying to win. And at the end of the day, after you're done trying to win, understand that it was out of respect for your opponent, that you show him enough respect to mean that you want to win, and he shows you enough respect to want to win. And at the end of the day, that's one of the biggest and greatest things that I love about fighting games in general, that we get to put our honest and earnest best effort into trying to win, and we don't have to feel bad about it. It feels good to put in maximum effort, and it feels good when that happens to lead to victory. So don't feel bad. Next is overcoming hurdles. So, obviously, in your quest to get better, there's going to be a ton of hurdles that you're going to run into. And the first one is trolls and bad people. People will cheer for your failure. They will jeer at you when you mess up. They will randomly pick up a flag and try to hurt you because they picked a flag for the other team. You have to ignore them. Well, it's hard to think to yourself that these people are not trying to hurt you, or perhaps these people are coming from a better spot. Don't think that. These people simply don't want to see you succeed. Even in the best of intentions when coming into this game, people will come at you with their worst of intentions. Some people just want to see other people fail. Do not let that bring you down. Don't look down at them either. Just ignore them. As you continue to succeed in these other 5 goals, you will find that you care about the trolls and bad people less and less, because they are not getting better. They are not advancing in their own game. They simply wish to keep you down with them, and if you let them, they will. Secondly, your life constraints. You need to make sure that also, in terms of Smash Brothers and getting better, that you can align your goals with your capability of achieving them. I can't say anything about this individually, but you will have constraints in your life that will try to stop you. Don't let them. Just because you have a problem or because you can't do something right now doesn't mean you won't be able to. I don't believe in the concept of potential. I don't believe that anybody is born in a way that makes it so they will be above anybody else in this game. There is nobody in this entire world who is unbeatable. You can do it, and I mean that, and you need to believe that as well. Next, coming up on the overcoming hurdles, another hurdle that you're going to come is your character. This isn't necessarily for Smash Bros. Ultimate, because this is a very well, finely tuned, balanced game, but in some games, your character is going to be terrible. Your character is going to be so bad that you have -5 unwinnable matchups. This is mostly in older games, but sometimes you need to realize, my character cannot beat this matchup. I either need to find a different way, or I need to find a different character. I need to discover technology to win this matchup. Sometimes you will have to be the one to learn how to win a matchup. Not everybody is playing every character. We are seeing severe underrepresentation of many characters. A lot of their technology just does not exist, and you will be charged with finding it. That is a hurdle that is exclusively up to you. Now, of course, you can use these other methods of pushing advantage to use the tools of other people. That's not always there. So your character, you will have to overcome their hurdles as well. Last on the overcoming hurdles issue is confrontation. In this game, in the fighting game community, confrontation is the name of the game. We are trying our best to attack what you think is the best way to win, with our best way to win. If you find that your way to win is untenable in certain matchups, and as a prime example, I shall use Sonic. Sonic can put characters who are too slow, such as Ganon or Incineroar, into basically unwinnable situations when he's trying to time you out. And in that confrontation, you will find that you feel just totally defeated, as if the confrontation doesn't really attack you, they're just running away, or you'll feel like people are just strictly out to get you. It doesn't matter. In Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and in many fighting games, confrontation breeds the best strategies. And in the best strategies, you'll find that you are consistently being attacked for them trying to find the weakness in it. And that's not out of trying to hurt you or trying to make you feel bad. They, just like you, are trying their best to win. And in that, they may try methods that you don't find that are acceptable in terms of the fairness of the game. Now, this does not account for bullies, or people who are hacking the game, or people that are, say, mettily listening to your controller buttons or pushing you or shoving you. Inside the confines of this game, people will try their absolute best to get into your head, to get into your headspace and make you play worse. You need to confront it. Be okay with it. Let it happen and let it play out. You'll get more adept at it. Don't let tournament nerves stop you. Everybody has to go to their first tournament eventually. Nobody is confident, and if they do come in confident, they often get torn down. But in that tearing down of your person, you'll find that next time, it's easier. And that's a great realization to have. And then next, for individualization, I'm actually just going to give you a real example of individualization, because I think that's one of the best ways to do it. So, here today, I've brought up my usual training method for Ike. So I'm just on Ultimate Frame Data. Everybody has access to the site with the internet. If you're watching this video, you likely have access to it. And I'm going to go over some of the things that I had to practice at a base level when I was learning my character, and how I set up tenable, actable goals in relation to my notes that I just took. So, one of the first goals that I had, a very tenable and easy to use goal, is I tried his hitboxes in many different situations for hours at a time. Perhaps one day I said, for an hour, I'm going to try my absolute best in quick play to hit somebody with jab 1, and then jab 2, and then jab 3. I'm going to see the reaches of this move, its application, and how I can get it to work. Now, this doesn't mean that I just go for a jab, no. It means that in situations where I haven't tried previously, I try to hit them with jab and see what happens. Even if I fail, I at least know then that it didn't work. And I need to try a couple of times too. That's why I set the time frame for an hour, because even in the same situation, my opponent may pick a different option. And in jabbing people, I learned their response as well. Sometimes you'll jab people's shield and you'll see how they act. Maybe you'll hit them with jab 2 then and you'll get a punish. Maybe they'll hold shield and then you jab 3 them and they punish you. You'll get to see people's generalized reactions, and that's a powerful tool. Another tenable goal that I have with Ike that is not just jabbing people is I want to see exactly which moves hit the ledge. And this is very important for every character in the game. If you just look at these moves, you make assumptions about these moves that aren't necessarily true. You actually need to act on it. For example, jab 3. I know now that jab 3 hits every ledge hang in the game. I also know that downward angles F tilt will 2-frame and hit ledge hangs if you are standing perfect in the perfect position. Up tilt will hit the ledge hang, down tilt will hit the 2-frame, F smash will hit 2 frames, reverse up smash will hit 2 frames, down smash does not hit 2 frames, despite how the hitbox looks. You need to go and test this for all of your character's moves. Why do I say all of your character's moves? Because just because a tool is extremely niche or not exactly usable does not mean it is not a good mix-up to the usual. Third, another thing that I might try is seeing exactly what I can do in weird niche situations when I hit some of these moves. So for example, let's say somebody jumps at me and I hit them kind of mid-air with down tilt. Well, what's my optimal conversion? How high in the air did I hit them? How fast of a faller are they? Does this work on every character in the game? If I hit Jigglypuff with down tilt, can she rest before I can punish her? These are important things to know. Many characters have frame 1 options, and depending on how it hits them, you won't necessarily get the same combo. And secondly, just because you know the basic combo does not mean you know the most optimal combo for the situation. You need to try different ways to get more percent. Perhaps you need better stage control. Perhaps you need a combo more suited for killing at differing percents. There are an extreme amount of factors that go into every move and every situation, and the more you practice them, the more that you are aware of them, the more that you experience them, the quicker and more accurately you will react, and that will make you a better player. Despite what you may think in your head, the more that you optimize and the more that you even just practice, the faster and stronger and fiercer of an opponent you will become. What took you a few frames to react to before, such as confirming out of down tilt, or what took you a long time to realize what was unsafe before, like dash attack, you will then know, oh, if I get hit by Ike dash attack as Ike and it hits my shield, I have guaranteed ether, and that is my best punish. Next, for example, forward smash. Forward smash is minus 39, usually worse because it hits the top of your shield. That means that if you're another Ike player and another Ike F-smashes your shield, you can sometimes get just reversed forward smash. You just forward smash them depending on how it hits your shield. And having that information available to you is important, because if you're not punishing moves optimally, if you look back at the notepad that I had up previously, you'll realize that you are not pushing your advantage enough. You are not getting enough out of your move, and you could get more. And knowing what is optimal is very important. So, next on this list here, we're going to go over your character's individualized stats, because the individualized stats matter. Your full speed, your move speed, your air speed, they all matter tremendously. So, let's just go have a look. So I play Ike. So, let's look at what exactly my character's stats are relative to other characters, so I know in which situations I can get what. So if I go to Ike, and I already have these in the order of which they are most strong, then I can parse these things out. So let's go down the list of air acceleration, air speed, fall speed, and gravity. And what's also important while I'm doing this is that you educate yourself on what these terms mean. Because if you just say, oh, air acceleration is very good, well, what does air acceleration mean? What does air speed mean? These are important. So I'm going to go over them for Ike, and then you can apply them to your own character when you do this yourself. Air acceleration is how fast you can switch directions in the air. That means that if you're moving forward and then you wish to move backwards, it defines how fast you can go in either direction. Air speed is your maximum speed in the air. It determines how fast you can go forward or backwards if you reach your top acceleration. Fall speed is how fast that your character falls to the ground. This doesn't necessarily mean fast fall, it just means that in general your character falls this fast. And gravity, unfortunately, even for me, I don't know what gravity means. And so, in the prime example of my advice, I'm going to look up Ultimate Statistics Gravity. What does it mean? So let's learn what gravity does, because I actually don't know. Gravity is a measure of how fast a character reaches their maximum falling speed. A character with high gravity does not necessarily have a fast falling speed, they simply reach their top falling speed faster. Gravity also affects how far you're able to jump. Two characters with the same initial jump velocity will not jump the same height if they have different gravity. Interesting. So now I know what gravity means. So if I go down this list and I find my character, I quickly find out that Ike has one of the best air speeds in the game. It is top 5, 10, 15, 20. It means he is very hard to track down in the air. He will often outspeed you if he is already at his speed. Let's go to fall speed. Ike, once again, very high on this list, has an incredibly fast fall speed, and he has the normal fall speed percentage. This means that Ike lands very fast, a good aspect to have in Smash Ultimate. If we go to gravity, we learn that Ike has a relatively middling gravity. That means that when he starts falling, he doesn't fall as fast as other characters. This means that he's kind of floaty in regards to his initial falling, whereas Fox falls like a rock, and means that he often falls into more combos. Next up, we have air acceleration, base, additional, and speed. So if we go to Ike, we see that his air acceleration, base, and speed are actually quite good. He can change directions in the air, albeit not as fast as these very, very high characters, but he is not at the bottom of the barrel. But he's close. So to keep in mind, Ike can't really change directions. Once he jumps, he is committed. Next, let's go to jump height, jump durations, and weight. Jump height is simply a measure of how high the jump goes. Jump duration is simply a measure of how many frames that it takes for you to land. And weight is just how much you get influenced by each hit in terms of knockback and your percent. So if we go to jump height, and these are all relative to the game, Ike actually has a very low jump height, and he has a very low air jump. Well, yeah, because he has a middling air jump, which is good. And his full hop is quite big relative to his short hop, and those two differences are important. Now, this information isn't necessarily that great because it just determines how high you jump. What might be more important to your character is their jump duration, because if you have an extremely long jump duration, that means that you are unable to approach with unreactable mix-ups. For example, Fox has the best short hop fast fall in the game. Fox can short hop fast fall Nair in 17 frames, and that is unhumanly reactable. Fox can jump and land with Nair faster than you can even react to it. If we go down the list, we eventually find Ike in the 26 frame window. Now, in terms of the short hop fast fall, that's a very middling of the road kind of short hop fast fall. Now, that's not necessarily great, not necessarily bad. It just means that you need to understand that when you full hop, people will be able to react that you jumped. They won't necessarily be able to react to what you did or what you are doing, but they will be able to react to your jump. Now, this also applies to your full hop fast fall. If your full hop fast fall is extremely fast, then people can't react to it. For example, Fox's short hop fast fall, or full hop fast fall, is 27 frames. That means that if Fox full hops, you will actually be able to react to him jumping. It takes too long for him in the air in order to land. Now, if we go to Ike on his short hop fast fall, we actually find that it's 33 frames above what his short hop fast fall was. This means that when Ike full hop fast falls and Fox full hop fast falls, the difference is only 6 frames, and that is quite a small distance between the fastest character in the game and one of the slower characters in the game. Next, study your character's weight. Knowing when kill confirms work on you in differing matchups and when they don't is important. Knowing which combos work on which weights is also important. Being a lightweight isn't necessarily a bad thing, and being a heavyweight isn't necessarily a bad thing. These are all matchup and hitbox dependent, and understanding it and understanding characters' counterplay to it is important. Ike's weight is 107. He is one of the heaviest characters in the game. So for Ike, this means that he can take ample trades. He is willing to trade hits because he will often outweigh the other person. Also in your factor of weight is the other opponent's kill moves. If the enemy character is lacking in kill moves, your weight is more important, because then they have a hard time killing you. Ike, fortunately, has many kill moves that confirm out of many different hits. So, when you are a lighter character, Ike is a lot more threatening, because he only needs to trade. And when you're a heavy character, Ike is also threatening because he has a lot of kill moves. Knowing what weight your opponent is, when your confirms work, and when they don't work based on their weight is also important, and something to keep in track in your tenable goals. Next, let's go to some very important aspects of the game: your hard landing lag, your run speed, your walk speed, and your initial dash. So, when you do a short hop, you always get the soft landing lag, which is only 2 frames. But for Ike, who likes to mix up a lot of full hop and short hop, the hard landing statistic matters a lot, and unfortunately for Ike, he is in the 4-frame heavy landing lag window. Well, not unfortunately, he is actually pretty par for the course, but it means that if you do a full hop, you get extra lag, and if you are one of these characters who has extra hard landing lag, you need to factor that in when you're approaching, because these influence what you're capable of doing. Next is walk speed. So walk speed is important because as you get better and better at the game, you'll realize that dashing and initial dashing is quite scary. Walking speed is important because it allows you to just walk into position rather than risking the dash. So as you can see at the very, very, very top, we actually have, instead of Fox, Sonic, Little Mac, we actually have Lucina. Lucina is incredibly fast just when walking. If you look at some characters' run speeds over here, she is faster walking than characters are when they are running. She is faster than Ike when he is running. And that is insane to think about. It means that she can literally walk some characters down faster than they can run. Now if we look for Ike in this list, we find that he is way down here. He is near the bottom of walk speeds. What this means is you cannot walk people down. You basically need to be able to fight where you are standing, or you need to be running, because other characters will be able to walk you down, and that's important to know. Knowing if I walk and my enemy walks, will I catch up with them? Will they outrun me? Will I be able to leverage my hitboxes? That's important. Next, another crucial statistic is a character's run speed and initial dash. So at the top here we have Sonic, Captain Falcon, and Little Mac. These characters are incredibly fast at their run speed, but what might be even more important than your run speed is your initial dash. Your initial dash is determined by when you initiate your run, and this is a short burst of speed that your character gets. Now, some characters, as you may have been listening to for other YouTubers, have terrible initial dashes. They either make their hurtbox extend in the other direction that they're running, meaning that they get hit. Their initial dash takes a ton of frames to do, so they don't get far when they start dashing, or it takes a long time. When they go to pivot from their dash, it takes so long that it's not worth doing. These are all important factors when you think about your character and what exactly they can do. At the very top here, Mythra has the best initial dash in the game, which means that she can close the distance in terms of a burst the fastest. But also up here is Bowser. Now you would not expect Bowser to be such a cracked out character in terms of initial dash, but when he is doing his initial dash, he is one of the fastest characters in the game. Now if we go to Ike, we actually find out that his initial dash is pretty bad. It's on terms with Luigi and King Day-to-Day. So when you're initial dashing with Ike, you need to know it's not that fast, it's not that far, and it takes a middling amount of roads to finish. Because if we go to the dash frames, and we go from the lowest to the highest, Ike is in frame 10. Well actually, as I'm discovering now, he actually has a pretty good initial dash. It takes a small amount of time, and it goes in below average amount of distance, but the less time is important. Your run speed, also important. Same reason as walk speed. And then coming up next, we have grab range. And now, this is where Ike gets very, very, very sad. Your grab range is important because it's one of the fastest whiff punishing options for a lot of characters, and also allows pivot grabs that will let you punish where you wouldn't normally be able to do. For example, Samus, Dark Samus, and Min Min have some of the longest grab ranges in the game, which means that they can punish with whiffed moves with grabs from a distance that they are unreachable, and that's very good. And sure, these are tether grabs, so they do take a little bit longer in terms of actual time, but they reach far. But for Ike, he has a bottom 7 grab, up there with Diddy. It means that oftentimes when people aren't even spacing properly, your grab is going to whiff. And knowing your grab range is important, and knowing enemy grab ranges is important. Because when people are trying to punish you, they're usually trying to do it with grab. Dash turnaround I don't view as a very important stat. I don't even know what it does, and today I'm not going to touch on it. Okay, this is also an important stat and one people don't often consider for their character. Different characters have different ledge roll distances, different ledge hanging hurt boxes, different ledge attack hitboxes, and different ledge jump hurt box shifting. So, if you actually look at this, we can see that they've linked the attack range of your get up attack. Bowser has the best attack range in the game. Link is the second best. When these characters do get up attack, they hit the absolute farthest. So if we go to Ike, he has just an incredibly good ledge attack. It means that often characters that are trying to stand outside of ledge attack range won't be able to stand outside of Ike's because he will just hit them. This is important to know for every character, and how your character can punish and where they need to stand for different ledge attack options. If you go to the very bottom, Lucas, Young Link, and Squirtle basically don't have a ledge attack. It goes nowhere. So the only way these hit is if you're standing directly on the ledge. And that's important to know because that's an aspect of a character you can abuse. Secondly is your roll. Some rolls are much more tangible than others, and some go much further than others. If we look at the best in the game, we see that Ridley has one of the worst rolls in the game. He's tangible for almost all of it, and it takes 45 frames, which means that he often gets nicked for no reason. And then if we go to some of the best rolls in the game, we've got the 1 to 30. So let's find Ike on this. So Ike is 1 to 24 intangible for the 45 total. That is a very middling of the road ledge roll, but it means that you will often be able to roll through attacks unlike other characters. Lastly, an important factor is how your ledge jump hurt shifting works. Some characters, like Min Min, or Samus, or Lucina, will actually jump off the ledge in sort of a handstand motion that isn't listed here, and they will actually extend their hurt box, meaning that they are more tangible there. This is important to note and isn't listed here, but it's something that you can look up yourself. I know for Ike, he has one of the better ledge jumps. He jumps off the ledge and immediately starts doing a forward flip, which reduces his hurt box shifting and makes him harder to hit. And that's a very important aspect that people don't often consider. Lastly, and perhaps one of the most applicable things to consider, is your out-of-shield options. This doesn't factor in parrying, this doesn't factor in your ability to hit them, it only factors in how fast it is. So, let's look at some of the fastest out-of-shields in the game. First, we have Mr. Game & Watch. He has a frame 3 up B out-of-shield, it hits both sides, hits incredibly far, has a good punish to combo game, and isn't unsafe if it hits. Those are all important things to know. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be up B. For example, Jigglypuff has a frame 5 rest. But why aren't we seeing Jigglypuff's rest out of shield? Well, because it goes nowhere. You have to consider your out of shield options. So let's go to Ike. So it says here that Ike has a frame 10 bear out of shield. So you might think, oh, that's quite slow. Well, that's not actually the worst of it. Rising bear out of shield only hits tall characters. So saying that this is his fastest out of shield is kind of disingenuous because it doesn't actually hit most of the roster. So most of the time, you have to just dismantle this from Ike's kit and say he doesn't actually have bear out of shield. When it is good, but most of the time he doesn't have it. Secondly, his next thing on his out of shield options is Nair out of shield. And technically this is correct. If you jump out of shield, your Nair comes out on frame 13. So you might think, oh, that means I can punish a minus 14 move with Nair out of shield. But you'll quickly find out that is not true. Because just because that is when the hitbox starts, does not mean it hits where you need it to on frame 13. And in fact, I often say that Ike has the worst out of shield in the game in terms of the frame that it comes out. Even though it is not listed, his best out of shield option is almost assuredly frame 15 if you do not have bear. So it's important to know which moves hit and what their risk reward is. If you are rising Nair out of shield and that gets blocked, they almost certainly have a true punish. Now this is going to be from individual to individual because you could rising Nair out of shield and then retreat, and some characters don't have the necessary speed to cover that. That's also something important to keep in mind. Every character also has a grab out of shield, grabs being very different from character to character. We have tether grabs, some of the faster grabs in the game. But just keep in mind that grab is always there. But for Ike, his grab range is so slow that, or not so slow, but so short that I have a hard time using it. Secondly, and kind of importantly, unfortunately in the current metagame, is your item toss frames. Jump Z-drop is universal, and jump Z-drop behind is universal, but Ike has one of the worst item tosses in both directions in the game. If we look at this list, the item throw forward is frame 11. Oh, Pichu has a worse one, and Villager is tied. Jigglypuff has a worse one, and Mr. Game & Watch is tied. This means that if you just try to forward toss an item, it is incredibly slow. And as you might know, there are many item users in the current metagame, such as Rob. Conversely, his frame 14 item throw backwards is tied for the worst in the game. So knowing that your character can't do these things effectively is also important. And knowing if they can do it better than other characters, such as Rob and Snake, I believe, is important, because that will factor into your character's ability to do things. Coming back to hitboxes, and one of the last things that I'd like to touch on, is you need to also understand the human reactable element of some of these. Some of the reasons that these moves are good is not because they are just good in a vacuum. They are good factoring in the human element. For example, forward smash, despite how devastating it might be when it hits, is frame 31. That means that people will be able to humanly react to it if they don't have any other thing on their mental stack. Mental stack is important when talking about fighting games, because eventually you'll reach a point where moves are being thrown out quicker or slower depending on what you're thinking about and what you need to consider. Because Ike is a basic character, he has a lot of room to have his mental space open. So for Ike, you can think about a lot of things because you don't need to think about how you need to convert. It's very easy. So, for example, in terms of like moves that rely on your opponent's mental stack, down tilt. When you hit spaced down tilt, people can't react fast enough to this move after it hits your shield. Its shield stun is low, its hit lag is low, and generally once the first one hits, people will be wondering what to do next. Same thing happens with moves like max range forward tilt. Once you max range forward tilt somebody, they are likely to not act immediately because they don't know what to do next. As you play more and more, as I discussed, you will get better and better at handling these situations, but you will never, ever be perfect at it. People will make mistakes. People will react slow. People will react wrong. When your nerves are high, and the tension is high, and the crowd is against you, you will not be able to do the perfect things that you practiced. But the more that you practice them, and the more that you do them, the easier it will become. Lastly, just one more thing I wanted to touch on. You should know which moves hit your ledge hang. For Ike, I know what every character's possible option for hitting my ledge hang is, because that is an important aspect of the game. You can determine what is important on yourself, and you can learn how to abuse or use it yourself. These are just some of the things that I found important for Ike, and some of the aspects that I push for his metagame. So, at the end of the day, you determine what's important. You determine what you need to work on, and you determine how you're going to work on them. But, coming back to this list here, make sure to follow these sort of guidelines. Make sure your goal is tenable. Make sure you have a time frame so you know when to stop, when you failed, or when you've succeeded. Make sure to have a comparative set of statements. That way you know what it is that you're improving and why, and if it is improving. You need to make sure it is reachable. How do you make sure it is reachable? Act on it. Specify your goal. Make sure that you're okay with failing, that way it becomes reachable. If you set up an unreachable goal, let it fail. It's unreachable. Third, get out of your headspace. Allow yourself to fail. Set harder or easier goals for next time. It doesn't matter how hard or easy your goal is, it only matters that you're capable of doing it and you feel like you've done it. And just because you don't succeed at your goal initially, doesn't mean you didn't learn. 4. As you're acting on it, make sure it's something you actually want to do. Make sure that the cost that you're putting it in is the cost that you're willing to pay. And make sure that it is actually making you happy as you're seeing your improvements. Push to your advantage. Use the tools available to you. Don't feel bad asking for help. People want to help other people. It's a natural instinct. Some people will turn you away. Some people, like me, legitimately want to see everybody get better. Listen to people. Even if people are yelling and shouting and jeering, some people will be offering legitimate advice. Some people will offer you legitimate advice. Listen. Even if you just listen and you've already tried it, then you can dismiss it. And once you've tried it, you no longer need to listen to the same statement, but make sure that you at least listen to the new ideas that are brought forward and try them. Don't just dismiss them. Don't be empathetic when you're trying to win. Sympathetic, rather. Sorry. You'll get no empathy from me. This means that during the game, we understand and have that respect that we are both trying our absolute best to win, and you shouldn't feel bad for doing so, even if people are hating against you. As long as you are playing by the standard rules, and like I said, not cheating, not hacking, not doing anything dirty that would get you kicked from the tournament, try your best to win. That's what we're all here to do. That's what I'm here to do. I'm not going to feel bad if you don't know how to punish Nair and I just spam it. I'm not going to feel bad if a Sonic tries to time me out. He's trying to win. I'm trying to win. That's our understanding. Overcome the hurdles. Don't let trolls and bad people bring you down. They will try. Do not let them, because they will. And when they do, they will feel good about it. And that is not something that I want to see anybody who is actually trying to get better ever experience. Make sure that your life constraints are in order. Make sure that you're not sacrificing too much. Make sure that your goal is repeatable. If, for whatever reason, you're sacrificing too much and you can't repeat your goal, then your goal will inevitably fail. Make sure that you believe in your character or that your character actually has the tools to handle the situation. Once again, this does not necessarily apply to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, a game in which every character is relatively balanced. And lastly, don't avoid confrontation. In the fighting game community, confrontation is the entire name of the game. We are attacking your style of play. We are attacking your ability to play. We are not doing that out of trying to attack you, the person. We are doing that because we want to make sure, to ourselves and to you, that you are playing the best style that you can, that you are winning in a manner of which is strongest, and not just one that we are letting win. That comes with the respect of the game. And lastly, Individualization was covered by my view of Ike and how I train. This doesn't work for every person. Some people need different training methods. Make sure that of all these goals, that you individualize it to your abilities. Anyway, that's been me, Lanananayeej, on self-improvement and getting over the hurdles in your Smash or fighting game community space. Thank you for listening. Please leave a like, please leave a comment. I love responding to people and having honest conversations about these things. And I just want to see this game get pushed to the absolute limit. I'll talk to you next time, and thanks for coming in.